Good day, friends. Mikey GloveSave here. No, it is not hockey season yet. And as we await that glorious day on October 7th, Mikey GloveSave has said to himself, Mikey GloveSave, you have a couple options. You could either try and find a way to cryogenically freeze yourself until October 7th, or you could find something productive to occupy your time. Now, being that the cryogenic freezing process would probably not be a good thing for Mrs. GloveSave and the little GloveSaves, I decided to dabble in the WNBA. I've actually been dabbling in this for some time now, and I found some success. And I'm going to tell you why the WNBA is a good sport to bet on. First, Mikey GloveSave just enjoys watching these games. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to turn into Mikey Hookshot. I don't even like or care about basketball really, but these games are fun to watch, and I think a lot of it has to do with the feistiness and the tenacity of these ladies. The games are faster paced, and one of the things I noticed that's pretty cool is they actually run offenses. They don't just give it to the biggest individual and have them take it to the hole or have their stud three-point shooter dropping nukes all day. They run coordinated, team-based offenses, and I enjoy that. That's artistic to me, much like in hockey when the center dude passes it to the left wing dude and he passes it across the ice to the right wing dude for a delicious one-timer. That stuff just makes Mikey GloveSave feel nice inside. Now, being that Mikey GloveSave enjoys watching these games, he can really zone in and pick some things apart. You see, not only is Mikey GloveSave very well-read and well-traveled, but he's also very analytical. And he picks up on certain behaviors and nuances within these games that he can apply into his craft of WNBA betting. Also, being that there are less teams in the league, it makes it a lot easier to retain this information, and since the games have smaller slates, you could really take your time to pick apart the best possible bets for the night. The only downside, in my opinion, is that the games are not as accessible as I believe that they should be. And if the games were easier to watch, I think more people would watch them. I see them occasionally on ESPN+. I know that they have them on Thursday Night Prime Video. But other than that, unless you subscribe to whatever streaming services or whatever WNBA subscription thing there is, you really can't watch too many games, which I think is a shame. And, of course, much like hockey, the best sport, the WNBA does not get bet on quite as much like some of the other major sports, and Mikey GloveSave is totally fine with that because it takes a little while longer for the sports books to get up to speed on some of these lines, and that means more price discrepancies for Mikey GloveSave to enjoy, some of which you're going to see as I fire off my picks here coming up. So in the meantime, people, you know what? Don't bet on the WNBA. Don't bet on hockey. Just let me do it. I'll take one for the team. I'll do it to be a nice guy and give these people some action, but you guys stick to your football and baseball, all right? Now, I know you all have a short attention span, and so does Mikey GloveSave, so I'm going to rip through these in an efficient yet comprehensive fashion, and we're going to start off with my girl, Sophie Cunningham. Now, one of the things that Mikey GloveSave has noticed is that if Caitlin Clark is not in the lineup, there are 3-point props for Sophie that you're going to want to engage in. First of all, her point prop is at over 9.5. Now, it's been fluctuating between 8.5 and 9.5 over the past couple weeks, but it is not going over 10 for some reason, and Daddy is fine with that because she is just nailing this line at a 60% hit rate without Caitlin Clark. She's just coming off an 18-point game against the Phoenix Mercury. So, Daddy got her at minus 125 over 9.5 points on Fanatics, and then he found her at over 10.5 at even money on FanDuel. And Sophie's 3-point prop is still set at over 1.5. Now, she has a 70% hit rate in the last 10 games with this. The most recent one being against Phoenix with 5 3-pointers. Then she nailed 2 against LA and 4 against Seattle. They're playing Chicago tonight, who's 11th in the league in giving up 3-pointers to guards. And guess what Sophie is? She's a guard. Now, the sportsbooks did catch up line-wise on this. That's around 135, 140, but there is a profit boost on FanDuel right now. So I got Sophie Cunningham over 1.5 3-pointers at minus 109 on FanDuel. Now, while Sophie is draining 3-pointers and scoring points and playing stellar defense, one thing she is not doing is rebounding. Remember when Mikey GloveSave was telling you how analytical he was? Well, one thing he notices is that Sophie is a perimeter player. And when somebody shoots the ball, as soon as it starts getting in the vicinity of the hoop, Sophie just starts taking off towards the other end of the court. She doesn't even go in for the rebound. Now, that's not a shot against her. I'm sure that's a part of their strategy, being that she's such a good defensive player. They're like, hey, Sophie, let someone else get the rebound. You get down on the other side of the court and play defense. But that means that her rebound prop under is always a healthy one to take. Now, the sports books are projecting her to go over for some reason, which I don't understand why, because looking at this, she has a 30% hit rate in the last 10 games going over this mark. That is not good. But when Mikey GloveSave did a little digging, he noticed that the last 4 games against Chicago, who they're playing tonight, she went over this 3 out of 4 times. But the 3 times were last year when she was on the Phoenix Suns. This year, she is on Indiana. And when they played them already this year, she only had 1 rebound. So guess who got an edge on you, sportsbook? Mikey GloveSave. That's right. Sophie Cunningham, under 3.5 rebounds. I got her at -110 on Caesars. This line's moving pretty quickly, so I would get on this sooner than later if I were you. And here's a pretty quick and easy one. Camila Cardozo. Her point prop is set at 13.5. She has not gone over 13.5 points versus Indiana since June 23rd of 2024. And she was at plus money on DraftKings. So that is Camila Cardozo under 13.5 points, plus 100 on DraftKings. Now, if you've made it this far, we're going to go into the LA versus Golden State game. We're going to start off with De'Erica Hanby. Daddy sees her points and rebound prop set at 23.5. She has a 70% hit rate in the last 10 games. She's cleared it the last 3 of 4 times against Golden State. And she's projected to go over 7.5 rebounds and 15.5 points. But Daddy didn't like the lines on those, so he got a nice -114 on FanDuel for De'Erica Hanby to go over 23.5 points and rebounds. Rickea Jackson's point prop is set at 14.5. She has an 80% hit rate on the last 5 games and 70% in the last 10. Now, earlier in the year, May 6th, 16th, and June 9th, she did not clear this line against Golden State. However, that was earlier in the season, and she's had plenty of time to find herself. Being that she's been scoring points lately, and Golden State is 11th in giving up points to forwards. Being that Rickea Jackson's a forward, I think that this is a pretty good shot. So, not too big on the juice here, but I did lay -130 on BetMGM for Rickea Jackson over 14.5 points. And Mikey GloveSave found us one of those nice price discrepancies like he was talking about earlier. Rickea Jackson's 3-point prop set at 1.5, I noticed, is plus 126 on the over at FanDuel, but Mikey GloveSave did not take that. You see, Mikey GloveSave mentions FanDuel because he likes to use them as what Captain Jack would call his source of truth, if you will, when it comes to player point props. I know that FanDuel has a reputation for being a little bit sharper in that aspect. But he always compares them to the other sports books, those of which have her at plus 115 to plus 130, depending on the book to go over. However, I found her at plus 145 on BetMGM. I think that's quite generous because looking at this, she has a 50% hit rate in the last 10 games, 60% hit rate in the last 5, and even though it was much early in the year, she did clear this 2 out of 3 games earlier against Golden State, so we know she can do it. Golden State is 8th in the league out of 13 teams in giving up 3-pointers to forwards. However, they are 4th in 3-point attempts, which makes this a little bit more touchy. However, I'm pretty much buying the price more than anything here. Plus 145, I think, is more than generous for this prop to go over. Rickea Jackson over 1.5 3-pointers. Okay, Mikey GloveSave just realized we're getting closer to game time, so he needs to wrap this up soon. Kelsey Plum, who's been on fire lately. 3-point prop set at over 2.5. I found it at plus 100 on DK. I think to find this at even money is very reasonable. She has a 60% hit rate in the last 5 games, 70% hit rate in the last 10. However, one of those games that she did not hit it was the All-Star game, so Mikey GloveSave is not going to count that. Golden State is 12th in giving up 3-pointers to guards, as well as 12th in attempts. I think that if you could get this at plus money at any point, it's a good bid. Kelsey Plum over 2.5 3-pointers. And it's time for price discrepancy round 2, this time coming from Janelle Salon. Her rebound prop is set at 4.5. She's only cleared this 20% of the time in the last 5 games, 30 in the last 10, and 33% of the time in the last 15 games. Now, keep in mind, she is 2 for 2 clearing this line versus LA, whom they are playing tonight earlier in the year. This was back in May 23rd and June 6th. But being that FanDuel and other sports books have this set at plus 114, plus 115, I think that I will gladly buy this price at plus 124 to go under 4.5 rebounds, being that she really hasn't been rebounding lately. And now let's end this party on a nice 2-leg parlay. Let's stick with Janelle Salon for a moment here. Under 1.5 3-pointers. She's only gone over this 20% of the time in the last 15 games. Now, LA is 7th in giving up 3-pointers to forwards and 8th in giving up attempts to forwards, and she did clear this line earlier this year against them, but she is not making them lately, and I'm not going to pay to see it, so I'm going under with that, and I'm going to stack it with Ariel Atkins from the Indiana versus Chicago game, under 1.5 3-pointers. Indiana is 2nd in preventing 3-pointers versus guards, which is what Ariel Atkins is. Also 3rd in preventing 3-point attempts. 0% hit rate going over this in the last 5 games and only 30% in the last 10. She's also day-to-day, so her minutes could be limited. So what I did was I went to Caesars, and I took Ariel Atkins under 1.5 3-pointers, Janelle Salon under 1.5 3-pointers, and put those together for a healthy plus 143. And as Mikey GloveSave signs off, I know you're all wondering, Mikey GloveSave, where are you getting all of this valuable information? Well, Mikey GloveSave found a newer and very affordable and thorough software called PickFinder. Go to pickfinder.app. It's really been helping Mikey GloveSave a lot. I'm actually hitting some baseball props too, and I don't know crap about any of these dudes. That does it for today, friends. Please remember, I'm not telling you to tell me you're an adult. You can actually make your own decisions and decide whether or not you want to follow these or fade them. That's why I give you all of the information, and you can make an educated decision yourself. Keep in mind also that sometimes tailing me could be like going to a Motley Crue concert. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and check my very first Stanley Cup Finals video, because I know you didn't watch that, and you'll see what I mean. Until next time, friends, good luck and good day.